Hello and welcome to episode 24 of WooCommerce Office Hours. This is a show where I, Daniel Espinoza, your host, answer your questions about WooCommerce e-commerce system. And the show airs live every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And you can also watch it back again on YouTube. And then I also post some show notes that put in the text and sort of some descriptions of the answers that we cover and some of the solutions or the questions that we cover and some of the solutions that we come up with. Today we've got a couple of questions lined up, and if people ask during the show, we'll go ahead and pull those questions up as well and see what they come up with. Cool. So the first question is actually an addition to a question that we had last week. So last week, Sean McCabe asked about hiding free products from the order list in WooCommerce, and I had a code snippet that I shared on how to do that. The free products, he was getting some free orders on products which he was using to register people for access to those products, but he didn't want to see the free orders in his list of products because he just wanted to focus on the products that actually have money tied to them. So we had a little bit of snippet of code that would add a filter to remove those free products on the order list page, and then on the show notes blog post, Doug Smith added a little bit of clarification or a little bit of extra information, and he said that it might be helpful to know that WooCommerce now separates free items in the stats. So if you look at the sales by product report, for example, it does not include free items in the top seller stats. So you also get a top freebies tab at the bottom of the results to get a look at your most popular zero cost items. So let's do a quick screencast and show what he's talking about there. Okay, so here is my test site. And this is the free order that I used last week to pull out of the listing. And what I did was I wasn't selling a free product. It was actually a paid product that I added a coupon fee to make it free for my testing. So what Doug was talking about was if you go to WooCommerce and then click on reports, under the reports you have, under the orders reports, you have sales by date, sales by product, category. So if I look at the sales by product report, I see that the top sellers are currently Happy Ninja, Patient Ninja, and the item that was in my order was the Woo logo. It shows the Woo logo being sold once. So it wasn't a freebie, so it's not going to show up in the freebies. So just to sort of, let's do a little demonstration to show what Doug was mentioning in his blog comment. So if I create a free item real quick, and this is going to be regular price of $0 because it's free, and let's call it virtual and publish. So if I go ahead and purchase that product, view cart, I obviously had some stuff in there from testing. I'm going to go ahead and zero all these guys out and just have the free. So it's free and it's virtual, so there's no shipping associated with it. I'm going to go ahead and proceed to checkout. My information is already entered there for checkout. There's no payment to be placed, so I can simply place the order. The order is finished. So if I go back and refresh my reports here, you'll see that the super freebie doesn't show here, but if I click here, it does show there that it has sold once. So that was Doug. That's what Doug was referring to with the option of reporting on freebies. So if we go by sales by date, the last 7 days, it does show my order, but there's no money associated with it. Cool. So that's what Doug was explaining, a little bit more information on that option. All right, so let's see, what's our next question? So our next question actually came through on the Advanced WooCommerce Facebook group, and the question was, how do you remove blocks from the checkout page? The question was a little bit vague, so a couple of answers came through that shared that were some answers to his question. And it actually there were 3 different ways of doing what he wanted. He later clarified what exactly he wanted. He wanted to remove a bit of code or a bit of stuff from the checkout page, but only display the order total, and not display the subtotal or the shipping or any of the other information that's underneath the line items on the checkout page. So I thought I'd share the 3 answers, or the 3 ways that you can remove stuff from the checkout page. Let's go ahead and go with the screen share and talk about these 3 items. Okay, so we're back at our test site. I'm going to close out a couple of these tabs because they're not needed. Okay, so if I'm going to add a Happy Ninja sweatshirt hoodie to my cart, and I view cart, I can see totals, the cart totals template that shows subtotal, shipping costs, and the total cost, and then the proceed to checkout item. So the original question was, how do I remove this? And he had circled this section. How do I remove this section from my checkout page? The first answer that came through was appropriate, and folks suggested just using CSS to hide this section. So to figure out what this section is, I can inspect it. Use my good old Chrome inspector here, and I need to change this back to a normal website from an iPhone emulator. Okay, so if I inspect the cart totals here, if I hover over these divs, I can see that this is the cross-sell section, and then this one is the cart totals. First element in there being an H2, and then a table, and then a proceed to checkout button. So really, if I just want to hide this table, I can assign a display none to that element. I can add it in my custom CSS and my theme. I can add it to a plugin that adds custom CSS to the site. There's a couple of ways of going about that, but what you're wanting to display none on is WooCommerce cart.
You're gay.
WooCommerce cart collaterals table. So that hides that nicely. It's a little misleading because it shows cart totals and it doesn't really show anything else. So this is pretty misleading to the customer. So if you want to hide maybe the header as well. Then you might have more of a streamlined cart with the line items, and then there's just the proceed to checkout button. So that's one way of hiding that, was just straight through CSS. I refresh to show it again. The second way to hide this would be to remove the hook. Now, if we go into, this was one of my suggestions was, or actually someone else suggested it, and I pointed out the section of how it would get done. If we look at the code for under the WooCommerce plugins, so WP content plugins, WooCommerce, there's an include file that I suggest anybody who wants to do any type of customization to WooCommerce get familiar with. And it's the WC template hooks. Template hooks and template functions. So the hooks PHP file is really well documented. It has all of the hooks for pulling in template items into WooCommerce. And so they're commented of which section that they're affecting. WP wrappers, breadcrumbs, product loops, etc. So if we're looking for the cart page, you can sort of scroll on down until you have the cart section. So here's checkout, and then here's cart. And you can see that there are 3 actions getting fired. The first being the cross-sell display, second being the cart totals, and the third, the proceed to checkout. So if you remember, we inspected this section, and we saw that there was there's cart collaterals, which is this whole section. There's the cross-sells, and then there's the cart totals and the proceed to checkout. So if we just unregister this hook for cart totals, we should get rid of that whole section. So I'm going to copy this and then go to our themes functions file. And I'm currently using 2016. Remove action. Should pull that whole section out of there. So that removes everything, including the add to cart button, which makes this cart page really unusable. So instead of pulling out the whole cart totals page, cart totals template, we can look at this function and figure out what's being used in it and override that template. So let's look at WooCommerce cart totals. And this is in the this is going to be in the functions file. So we looked in the template hooks file. Here's the template functions file. We can see that WooCommerce cart totals pulls in the template cart totals. And so this is the third way of modifying that cart totals section. So let's see, it's going to be under templates, under WooCommerce templates, cart totals. And here we see the same div for cart totals, the header that gets displayed, the table, and then the proceed to checkout button is actually right here. Do action, proceed to checkout. And there's another action for after that. So if we want to override this and pull out that table, but leave the proceed to checkout button, then in our theme, what we do is create a folder called WooCommerce, and then keep the same directory structure that is under this templates folder. So we're going to create cart and then cart totals as a file. WooCommerce, new file, new directory cart, and then new file. And just copy in everything from this template. The only caveat there is if you override a template in your site, you need to make sure that it stays up to date with any template changes that happen in future versions of WooCommerce. And thankfully, WooCommerce has a function in it in the WooCommerce system status report that'll tell you, hey, you're using a template file in your active theme that doesn't match the version of the current template file in WooCommerce. So that's useful to have. So let's go back to screen share. And so what I've done is overridden that file in my local theme, cart totals, and I'm just going to show you that it's overridden. by adding H2. Get rid of this inspector. We have the extra H2 overridden. So if we want to modify this cart totals by pulling out this information, leaving the H2, and then leaving just the proceed to checkout, then we could just pull out this table in our overridden template. And that leaves the H2 and then the proceed to checkout button. And that's it. Again, this might be confusing to customers because once they proceed to check out, they're not actually going to see their total. But if you don't have any shipping or tax or anything associated with your cart, that might be fine. You know, they'll see this information here, and that might be enough. So to review, those are 3 ways to modify your template file on your checkout page. The first is just throw some CSS in to hide the elements that you don't want on there. The second is to remove the hook entirely so that the template does not get displayed. And then the third is to override that template file in your current theme and then modify the template file to just display the information that you want to display. You know, it sort of increases in complexity, in technical complexity with each answer, but there's 3 great options for doing it. Cool. Check for questions. It's always fun getting trolled, isn't it? Cool, no questions yet. All right. So what I want to do next is I have a notification that comes out, or that I get for new plugins that come out on the .org repository. And there's a new plugin that got dropped today called WooSwipe. And it is a WooCommerce gallery plugin using the photo swipe from Dmitry Semenkov and a slick carousel. And it's by Thrive Web Design and an author named Jinxie. So 2 authors on it. And so I wanted to install it and then show it off and just see how it works. Because I actually have a project right now where I'm going to do some mobile related swipe functionality on products. So I wanted to see how they were doing it and if it was similar to how I plan to do it. So first, let's look at the plugin page, and then I'll show you how it's set up and how to use it. Cool. So here's the .org plugin page. It's just plugin/WooSwipe. Very sparse description. If we look at the installation and screenshots, installation is just upload it and turn. Actually, they do have a link here, a more info link that takes you to their site, which has a little bit more instruction on it. The screenshots are pretty straightforward. They show a product image and then what I believe is the gallery layout. This is the product. This is the product page. This is the product page gallery, so you know, it doesn't say that right off, but you'll see in a second that it is. So, and then it provides a pop-up screen. So if you look at the documentation on their site, you can see that when you activate the plugin, it immediately replaces the WooCommerce gallery. So I'm going to go and show you a product. That I added with a gallery with about 6 images. Okay, so we're selling a hi-fi microphone for $99.99. And let me show you the default first and then what this plugin brings. Okay, so deactivate it. So the default gallery display is a tiled gallery display, which shows all of the images underneath the main product image. So if I click on it, then it's going to pull up in a pop-up, and I can click through the images. But if I switch this to a phone emulator, and you use the Chrome inspector, oops, try that again. Okay, so if I switch this to a phone emulator, it's a little bit small, but you can see that the main image is right here, and then we have the tiles underneath. And then when I click on one of the images, it pulls up kind of bigger, kind of not. It's not that useful, but I actually have to swipe to show the gallery image. So if I had more images than this, I would actually have to move my phone, move the page down, and I wouldn't be able to see the main image up here. So if that's a problem for you, it may or may not be, I'm not sure. So that's the default gallery display that's provided with WooCommerce. I'm going to go ahead and reactivate the plugin, show off the WooSwipe functionality. Okay, plugin is reactivated. And then you can see that it pulls in, it creates a nice little 3-column carousel with some action buttons that will move the image across and then move it back. And then it retains a, let's see, so it's not showing up the, let's say, it should retain the pop-up modal of the image, but it doesn't look like it. And really where this comes in handy is if we switch back to the iPhone display, we now have this nice carousel where I can use my thumb technically to swipe over and swipe back a larger gallery. And then clicking on the items again doesn't seem to work by default. Seems like there'd be some configuration there to fix that. No errors reported, so not sure why that is. But that's a nice mobile interface for the gallery. If you've got, if you've got a ton of images that you put on your product page and you want your mobile users to be able to swipe through, I could see how that would definitely be useful. All right. So that's it for WooSwipe. Available in the WordPress.org repository for free. I think that's it for questions for today. Checking on questions. Everything looks good. So that's it for today. I think this is our last show for 2015. I'll post new shows starting in 2016, and I hope everybody enjoys their holiday and has a great end of the year and New Year. Thanks.